Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview the Southeastern Conference opener for both Auburn and Arkansas. This one will be in Fayetteville. You can catch it on ESPN2 at 1 Central on Saturday. We're doing this Wednesday morning, so we don't have the official lines yet, but based on an average of BPI, Bart Torvik, and Ken Pomeroy, it looks like Auburn will be about a 5.5-point road favorite in Fayetteville with about a 69% chance to win. We'll get to the analysis in just a second, but just a reminder, this is brought to you by BetOnline. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information at any time. Head there today to get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's start here, Blake. Hard to know what teams we're getting here. Auburn is a computer darling. The more I look at that roster, it is deep. It is reasonably complete. And then we've got Arkansas on the other hand. I just don't know what I'm looking at with their muscle. Granted, a lot of new parts, and this is the team that's had a habit of starting slowly, even needing a couple of SEC games to get going before it usually clicks on in mid to late January. But I think this Arkansas team starts a little further behind than it normally has and just did not look impressive the way we thought it would in non-conference play.
Yeah, I'm a little more sure about Auburn than I think you may be.
I'm
I'm
getting there with you. Trust me.
I just think Auburn's really good. I mean, I'm just gonna flat out say it. I mean, like I don't know if we said it yesterday or whatever, but again, if this was NCAA tournament time and you're looking for all the metrics and all that, like Auburn's one of those teams that you're just gonna maybe advance just out of looking at the numbers because they just do so many things well, and I keep repeating that, like they do, and all they've done since the last time we recorded is they beat Penn by 20 and did it again. Just took care of business against an opponent they should have took care of business against. Taking care of business. I don't know what the grammatically correct way of saying that is, but yeah. So I mean, on that side of things, I say all that, and I also know that this is Arkansas and they're at home, and this is a big game for Arkansas because they're a team that just does not have a lot on their resume right now. They've got the Duke win. What else do they have? And so this is a very significant game for the Hogs. And like you said, they've started slower this year than they have in recent seasons. Pretty much, the best bets, if you look back at the Eric Musselman era, I think to this point, at least the past couple of years, they've lost their first SEC game the past few seasons. Of course, they started 1-5 last year, 0-3 the year before. I think the only team actually they've beaten to start SEC play in the past 3 seasons has been Auburn. So yeah, it's interesting here for Arkansas because we know the talent's there. We know all the things that have kind of happened to this point, but it makes for an interesting storyline in this one because Auburn's just doing all the right things. Arkansas has won 3 in a row and seemingly is turning the corner, but it's a tough matchup in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret what the computer's like in this one, right? I mean, they love Auburn, and Arkansas has not been too efficient. You got to take into consideration Bud Walton is Bud Walton, right? But when you look at the matchup, you kind of break down how these teams are going to look against each other. You got to think of the Arkansas free throw rate, just because that is, if there's one weakness of this Auburn team, they do put teams on the line a little bit. They can afford it with going 10 deep. It's not the end of the world if they get a little bit of foul trouble, but they do put teams on the line. And if there's a team that knows how to get there, it's Arkansas. You rank top 5 in the nation in free throw rate, and a lot of that can be thanks to Khalif Battle and newcomer here, Keon Menafield. They both rank top 25 in the nation in fouls drawn per 40 minutes. So when you have about 5 guys on Auburn that have been getting into foul trouble here, that becomes significant. And you look at the point distribution numbers for Auburn. They allow the 23rd most opponent points from free throws. That is right in line with what Arkansas likes to do offensively with how aggressive they like to get. So if you're looking at a path of victory for Arkansas, you can definitely see the home court advantage coming into play with some favorable whistles and getting into foul trouble and whatnot. Looking at Auburn, that Appalachian State loss was just weird, right? I mean, it's a 1 p.m. game on a Sunday. It's App State's Super Bowl. You shoot, 3 of 27 from 3, the worst shooting performance of the season. I'm just kind of taking that up and tossing that out. I'm not putting too much weight into that. And I mentioned Keon Menafield playing more. While that's going to bump up that Arkansas offense, it's going to bring down their defense. When you look at Evan Maya's numbers, he's got an offensive performance rating of 3.14, which is phenomenal, but a defensive rating of negative 0.06. So where he's really going to bring that offense up, the defense, especially the perimeter guard defense, is not going to get any better. It's probably going to regress. So it's a game of matchups, and you never know with Bud Walton Arena here. What are you seeing, Blake?
All right. So for those of you who like a great game flow, hide your eyes because I don't think you're going to get that in this game.
Yeah.
And here's why. Going back to a season ago, these two teams played. It was at Auburn. I think they only played once last season. Arkansas shot 32 free throws in that game. I'm not just putting this on Arkansas, by the way. I'm just pointing out a trend that you see with Arkansas against Auburn for whatever reason. Go back the season before, 2022. I think that was the wild game they played in Fayetteville. Yeah, overtime game. Arkansas shot 32 free throws in that game as well. You go back the year before, 21. They played at Auburn. Arkansas shot 31 free throws in that game. They also played in Fayetteville. Arkansas only shot 15 in that game. So out of the last four games, Arkansas shot at least 31 free throws against Auburn. I would expect more of the same here. I think that's probably going to be a good bet that that's what happens. But, Auburn's also a team. Like you said, Max, they get to the free throw line too. So this to me feels like your SEC special where this is going to be a wild game. There's probably going to be 50 or more free throws shot. My guess is closer to 60 perhaps in this one. And it really is just a matter of seeing both teams have depth. Both teams, can sport a lot of different guys and different rotations and such. But, it's the consistency of everyone. And like we mentioned, Arkansas, it's been hit or miss in terms of what you're getting out of different guys to this point. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, that's it. Like, it's just setting up to see, how does that part of the equation unfold in terms of the ability to get the free throw line? Both teams have really wanted to do that. And also, we've got a 1-game sample size for this Auburn team on the road this season. What happened? They lost 69-64 at App State. That's all we got. I mean, I know they played 5 neutral court games, but true road games, they've not played one like this to this point, right? And so that's always the thing too when we start SEC play. And it's the same thing we mentioned kind of with Ole Miss, right? This is your first true, just ridiculous environment that accounts for something. And so, yeah, this is a fascinating setup here for these two.
It is, and I think that the foul thing is interesting. It feels like Auburn's bench has just been a lot better so far, to be honest with you. So some of the guys that I thought would step up for Arkansas and be players just haven't been. I think one thing that sticks out, Max, you mentioned the shot blocking that Arkansas's got. Well, Auburn's pretty well suited with Broome and Jalen Williams, who might be the most underrated player in this league, to deal with that. I don't know. I've just got mixed feelings about this one because, Blake, it's something you just said. Auburn has been on the road once, and it didn't go well for Auburn. Arkansas, you look on paper, you forget where this game's played. Clearly, Auburn's been the better team, but there's that little alarm bell in the back of your head that goes, surely Arkansas is going to play better than it has with all that talent, right? And that's kind of where I'm stuck on this game.
Yeah, you talk about talent, right? Who's the most talented prospect on Arkansas? Everyone's gonna say Brazil, right? What's Arkansas's best win? Everyone's been saying Duke. Well, how did Brazil play at Duke? He had his best game of his season. Had a season high 19 points, season high 4 threes. All right, he hasn't had a game where he's had over 2. That's his only game over 2 threes is the 4-3 performance. You look at Brazil in the past 4 games, averaging just over 6 points a game, and he shot 1 of 5 from 3 over the past 4. So he did play a little bit better against Wilmington, but Wilmington doesn't play a single player over 6'9". You're going to get a much stronger test out of the Cardwell, Broom, Williams, like you just mentioned. So I think it also comes down to, I mean, we've said with Arkansas, it's so hard to know who's playing minutes because of how just the rotation has been all over the place. What guys are going to step up and play for the home crowd? I honestly don't have a clue, if I'm being honest. I don't know who's going to step up, but that's what makes this game so interesting is there's so many different talented options that can step up. You just don't know who.
By the way,
All
I
right,
forgot to
gentlemen.
mention, I
ahead.
forgot that these two played in the SEC tournament last year. There were only 23 free throws shot by Arkansas on that one. Auburn shot 27, so you still got your 50 free
There
throw
you go.
special.
Yep.
I just, for whatever reason, these two teams, I just feel like, again, this the way they play, and knowing, again, Max brought up the free throw stats earlier. Like, it's just, you're going to see two teams shoot a lot of free throws in this game,
Yeah.
I would expect. So, based on the physicality and all those things. So, yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's get the picks and a why, starting with Blake.
Well, remember all those great things I said about Auburn earlier. I was all in on the Tigers. I don't know, man. This feels like a must-bus special here in terms of just first home game, just one of those situations. If you really look at it, right, outside of the UNC Greensboro game, which was forever ago now, they met the occasion in the Duke game. This is a big game. Everybody knows it. Arkansas fans know it. The whole team knows it. They've won 3 in a row. And so, like, even though we feel overall we're like, oh, Arkansas has been disappointing, they have won 3 games in a row. Hasn't always been pretty, but they looked a little bit better against Wilmington. They looked like they were starting to figure some things out. Oh, I really just want to pick Auburn here, but it's the Bud Walton effect. I think I'm going to pick Arkansas on this one. I know the Auburn fans who, by the way, I just want to remind Auburn fans, okay? Yes, I talked a lot about Alabama in the power rankings and how high I was on a 5-loss Alabama, but I still had Auburn ranked 3rd. I've had Auburn ranked 3rd for a month or more now. So I still have them ahead of Alabama, just for the record. But probably won't help that I'm picking against Auburn here and going with the Hogs. So I don't know. I mean, look, at some point, the talent has to do what we saw, like, again, in the Duke game, right? Like, you have to be able to see it all come together. And maybe the fact is they got the junk out of the way a little earlier this year. And maybe this is where they start SEC play in a good way. Probably a basket either way in this game because of how many free throws are going to be shot. But I'll take the Hogs at home.
That is a bold pick. And with everything taken into consideration, how much better Auburn has looked, the free throw numbers, the defensive regression I see coming at the guard position with Menafield playing a bit more, I will be taking Arkansas as well to win at home. The Bud Walton effect, I mean, you saw it with Duke. I mean, look at how good of a team Duke is. Duke just beat up on a decent Syracuse team with some insane guards, and Arkansas handled them, right? So I just think this is a spot where you're going to get a short spread, about 5.5. Everyone's going to say, oh my gosh, here's all my money. Give me Auburn. They're the better team. And then Tremont Mark or Menafield go to the free throw line 17 times, and you can't make shots from outside because the crowd is going berserk, and you get another Bud Walton effect win here, going Arkansas.
I'm shocked. I thought at least one of you was going to take Auburn. And as the resident low man on Auburn, I had a little more thought that I put into analyzing that roster last night, looking at the numbers. I think if I had to go back and do power rankings again this week, I would have put Auburn ahead of Texas A&M. Maybe we'll see that next week. But we have talked about teams not having all their guys. And I think there's two reasons that I'm going to pick Arkansas on this one. Number one, Auburn's been on the road once, lost to a team it should not have lost to. The home court advantage in Fayetteville will be significant in this one. Number two, Keon Minifield. Pac-12 freshman of the year a year ago, had not played till the Lipscomb game, gives him 19 minutes, scores 2 points. Game 2, Abilene Christian, 28 minutes, scores 11 points. Last week, SEC Player of the Week, 35 minutes, offensive rating of 140, according to Ken Palm, 32 points. Most importantly, 13 of 17 from the foul line. We talked about fouls earlier in the podcast. I think this is an Arkansas team that is bound to play better. I think those free throw numbers are a little jarring. If you're Auburn, give me Arkansas for those reasons. All right.
Congratulations to Auburn on the win, because all three of us just picked Arkansas. Bruce Pearl, like you guys just won the game right there. Like this thing's over. Big win for Auburn. Now that Auburn has won the game, I'm just going to tell you they're going to start 5-0 the way their schedule sets up. So congratulations to the Auburn Tigers starting 5-0 in SEC play, thanks to our picks here.
Jeez.
Yeah, we've just I can't believe we all three went.
I'm picking Auburn. I'm changing my pick. You guys, come on. We got to give some respect to the number 3 team in our power rankings. They're playing the number 10 team in our power rankings, and we're picking the number 10 team. What the hell are we doing around here?
We don't know.
Is that a game of matchups? It's a game of matchups.
It is. By the way, it's basketball season, not football, which means if you lose one game, your season's not over. I promise. So
yeah. Well, the more we talk about this, the more I can't wait to watch it. We'll be talking about it Sunday morning, I guess. So be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can check that out. For Blake Lovell and Max Barr, I'm Chris Lee. This is Southeastern 14 presented by Bet Online.